The gentle light from the wooden lamp in the seaside house in Maine surrounded me, Clara. 45 years old as I sat by the fireplace, my hand gliding over the laptop, my eyes stopping at the wedding photo hanging on the wall. Ethan and I were smiling brightly, the ocean waves behind us like a promise of eternal love, while the scent of pine wood and the soft sound of waves through the open window brought a familiar sense of peace. Serenity Studio, my 15-year dream, was the place where I brought peace to this small town, through healing yoga classes from single mothers to couples looking to reconnect. I, the one who meticulously chose each yoga mat, each bottle of lavender essential oil, had turned the studio into the heart of the community, where people knew me as the one who guided them through soul journeys. Tonight, as I checked my email to reply to students, a strange address appeared, making my heart feel like it stopped beating, as if the sea waves suddenly rose and drowned me. Clara, do you think you deserve Ethan? I'm his ex, and he still texts me. His mother, Margaret, says, "You don't belong in this family, that your marriage is a mistake. Here's a message he sent me last week." Attached was a screenshot. Ethan's familiar but cold voice, like a blade cutting deep. "I miss the days with you. Clara isn't right for me, like Mom said. I need to get away from her." The cruel, arrogant words pierced through 17 years of marriage. I cherished, making me grip the laptop tightly, my breath heavy. Meanwhile, the dim light shone on the wedding photo where Margaret stood next to us. Her smile perfect, but her eyes distant, as if she had always waited for this chance. I took a deep breath, the scent of peppermint essential oil on the table, pulling me back, and I typed a cold reply. "Thanks for sharing. I'll handle this my way." I didn't know who the sender was, but the name, Margaret, made my blood boil like fire erupting in my chest. My mother-in-law, who always smiled politely in front of me but whose sharp eyes looked like they wanted to tear me apart, now appeared clearly as the puppet master. I stepped out onto the balcony, where the Maine waves crashed against the rocks, the salty wind blowing through my hair, soothing the storm inside me. Rereading the email, the pain crept in, but it wasn't surprising, as if I had sensed Margaret's manipulation for a long time, just never imagined she would be cruel enough to fabricate messages to ruin my happiness. I whispered to the sea, my voice firm. I won't let her take away what I built with sweat and heart. This town, with its cobblestone streets and white wooden houses, was where I found peace, after years of stressful work in the city. Serenity Studio wasn't just a job. It was my breath, the place where I helped people like Sarah, a single mom, find her smile again. After divorce, I thought of Ethan, of how we met 18 years ago at a cafe in Portland, when he spilled coffee on my shirt and apologized with a warm smile. But now this email made me question everything, as if every memory was a puzzle piece that could shatter. Had Ethan truly betrayed me, or was this Margaret's game? I returned to the house, the light shining on the wooden sign that read Serenity Studio hanging by the door, and I brushed my hand over it, feeling the roughness like a reminder that I built this dream from nothing. Margaret might think I'm weak, but she doesn't know. I stood up after my mother passed away, when I thought I would never smile again. I opened the laptop, saved the email and the screenshot into a separate folder as the first step in my plan. The sea breeze blew stronger, carrying the scent of salt and strength. Have you ever felt like your whole world shattered in a moment when the person closest to you seemed to turn their back? I've been through that, but I know I will rise stronger than ever. The signs of manipulation had crept in long ago silently, like unbalanced yoga poses before a fall. But I was too busy with Serenity Studio to notice them, like the sea receding before a storm. Ethan started getting more tense frequently, mentioning long calls from his mom. But when I asked, he only shook his head, his voice hesitant. "Clara, Mom's just worried about my health. Don't overthink, she's just someone who worries too much." Meanwhile, Margaret appeared in our lives, with sweet but sharp words, like a blade hidden under velvet. Once she came to the studio, looked at the yoga mats and essential oil bottles, then smirked. "You're really passionate, Clara. But is this little studio enough to keep someone like Ethan? Someone who needs a wife, who truly understands our family's values?" I thought she was just picky. But then I found strange messages on Ethan's iPad from an unsaved number with lines like, "I miss you. Mom says we belong together and Clara never understands you like I do." I confronted Ethan right in the wooden house's living room, the dim light shining on the wedding photo, and asked Ethan, "What are these messages? Who's texting you? And why do they mention your mom? You need to tell the truth now because I can't live in doubt any longer." He frowned, swore. He didn't know anything. His voice full of confusion. "Clara, I swear I didn't text anyone. Maybe someone got the wrong number, or it's a cruel prank, but I'm not involved. You have to believe me." But his eyes wavered like the sea, before the wind, making me wonder if he was hiding something. 6 months ago, I found a receipt in Ethan's coat pocket for an expensive dinner in Portland, on the day he said he was meeting with his mom to discuss her charity fund. That night, I sat alone in the studio looking at the wedding photo on the wall. Ethan's bright eyes, once promising the world. But now the picture felt cold, like a reminder that I might have trusted blindly. Tears fell, not because I was angry at Ethan, but because of the feeling of being manipulated by Margaret, the woman I called mother. But I didn't let myself drown in sorrow, as if pain were a yoga pose I had to push through. I wiped my tears, whispered to myself, "I will protect my dream, even if I have to face any darkness." I recalled the early days of opening Serenity Studio, when I worked to exhaustion, learning to balance finances and design classes to attract students. Every morning, I woke at dawn, brewed peppermint tea, and stood on the beach to practice yoga, finding stillness before opening the studio. This town welcomed me from Mr. Henry the fish vendor at the market to little Lily, who always brought wildflowers. They believed in me, and I couldn't let Margaret destroy that. I thought of my mother, who taught me that yoga wasn't just about moving the body, but about keeping the soul steady in storms. When she passed away, I promised to live a meaningful life, and the studio was that promise. Meanwhile, Margaret only saw me as an obstacle in her plan to control Ethan. I started to doubt from those family dinners, when she always found ways to bring up more suitable girls for Ethan, her sharp eyes every time I talked about the studio. Once she gave me a book about a wife's role with a handwritten note, "Learn to support Ethan." "Clara," I smiled politely, but deep down, I knew she was trying to belittle me. I opened a separate bank account, transferred money from the studio into it, not because I doubted Ethan, but because of my mother's lesson. There's always a way out, Clara, no matter how strong the storm. I noted every detail. The long calls between Ethan and Margaret, the times she came to the house and asked about shared assets, her eyes when I refused to merge accounts. Each piece was a brick in my wall of defense. That night I sat in the studio, the yellow light shining on the yoga mats, and I opened a bottle of lavender essential oil, took a deep breath to regain my calm. Have you ever felt like you had to fight to protect your dream when those closest seemed to be pulling strings behind your back? I'm doing that, and what I discovered next stunned me more than ever. The next afternoon, I was guiding the sunset yoga class. Golden sunlight pouring through the studio windows when my phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of the flow of warrior pose. Another email from the same strange address appeared, the tone sharper like a blade. "Clara, stop trying to hold on to Ethan because he doesn't belong to you. Margaret says you're just a burden, a wife unworthy of their family. And Ethan agrees with her. You should leave this town before all of Maine knows how much you've failed as a wife." The cruel words froze me like a wave crashing hard against the rocks, but I kept my voice steady, guiding my students into the next pose. Inhale, exhale. Find balance in each breath. Inside, I burned like a fire, flaring in the ocean breeze. Margaret didn't just want to tear Ethan and me apart. She wanted to destroy my reputation, the one I had built through every yoga class, every smile from students like Lily and Sarah. After class, I called Ethan, my voice calm but icy, every word carefully measured. Ethan, I just got another email from someone claiming to be Vanessa, saying you agree with your mother that I'm a burden. I need you to tell me the truth right now. Is someone impersonating your messages, and how is your mother involved in all of this? I need to know because I can't live in this lie anymore. Ethan stayed silent for a long moment, then sighed, his voice heavy with pain. Clara, I swear on my heart, I haven't texted anyone but my mother. She keeps bringing up someone named Vanessa, saying she's my past, that I should go back to her for a better life. I thought she was just misremembering or obsessed, but now I'm not so sure, and I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner. The sincerity in his voice made me believe him, but it also sent a chill through me, like I had touched a dark secret. Margaret wasn't just manipulating me. She was pulling her own son's strings like a puppeteer behind the curtain. I reached out to Julia, my best friend from college, now an investigative journalist in Bangor, and said with a trembling but determined voice, Julia, I need you to help me dig into Margaret because I believe she's orchestrating everything, from the fake messages to making me doubt Ethan. I need the truth, no matter how painful, and I need it fast. Julia responded right away, her voice full of resolve. Clara, if Margaret's playing dirty, I'll uncover everything. Her past, her shady deals. Give me a few days, and I'll bring you everything you need to confront her. While I waited, I focused on the studio launching a new healing yoga class, with candles and ocean wave music, even drawing in people who had never tried yoga before, as a way to affirm that Margaret couldn't destroy my dream. That night in the cabin, soft light wrapped around me. I opened the wedding album, looked at Ethan and me beaming, but Margaret's distant eyes in the photo made me shudder. I closed my eyes, letting the sorrow pass, not because I had lost faith in Ethan, but because I had lost faith in the family I had tried so hard to fit into. But when I opened them again, I saw clearly. I will stand strong against every one of your schemes, no matter how tightly you weave your web. Have you ever wanted to scream because of the manipulation from someone you call family, but instead chose to fight wisely? I wanted that. But more importantly, I knew how to make the truth my strongest weapon. The next day, I opened the door to Serenity Studio. My heart heavy, but my will as sharp as a finely honed blade. I wanted to focus on the morning class to momentarily forget the pain, but a phone call from Mrs. Grace, an older student who regularly attended yoga classes, left me stunned, as if a wave had crashed over me again. Clara, I heard your studio is facing serious financial trouble. She said, her voice hesitant, as if she didn't want to believe the words. There are rumors that you've been misusing Serenity Studio's funds, and your marriage is falling apart. So, I have to cancel this month's registration, though. I'm truly sorry. I froze the ground, seeming to collapse beneath me because Serenity Studio had always operated transparently, never missing a payment. And I had spent 15 years building its reputation class by class. I asked more questions, and Mrs. Grace revealed that a trusted source had warned her that I couldn't be trusted, that my studio was about to close. I knew instantly it was Margaret, like a toxic wind sweeping through town. She wasn't just forging messages. She was spreading rumors to destroy my career, the one she used to mock as a pointless hobby, unworthy of Ethan. I sat in the small office behind the studio, looking at neatly arranged invoices and rows of yoga mats, feeling like the whole world was turning against me. Serenity Studio was my dream, the place I found joy through the hardest days, from losing my mother to fighting to expand the studio. If I lost it, what would I have left but fallen bottles of essential oil? Doubt started to creep in like an unbalanced yoga pose. But at that very moment, Lily, a young student pushed open the door, holding a bottle of homemade essential oil, her smile as bright as the Maine sun. "Ms. Clara, I made this for you. It smells like peppermint, really fresh. I think it'll help you relax after a long day," she said excitedly. Lily's smile pulled me out of the darkness like a gentle ocean breeze. I held the bottle, felt the peppermint scent spread, and remembered why I started Serenity Studio. To bring peace and joy to others, no matter the struggle. I wiped away my tears, stood up, and called Mrs. Grace back, my voice firm but warm. "Mrs. Grace, I assure you, Serenity Studio is completely stable, and I'll send our financial report today to prove it. I hope you'll continue to trust in our classes, because you are an important part of this community." She agreed to reconsider, and I breathed a little easier. But the rumors didn't stop. I heard students whispering that Serenity Studio was going bankrupt, that I was a failed wife who couldn't keep her husband. Another student canceled a long-term registration, claiming they had heard I wasn't trustworthy. I texted Julia, my tone hard. "Julia, Margaret is trying to destroy me. Not just my marriage, but Serenity Studio's reputation. I need you to find the truth right now because I can't let her win." Julia replied instantly, "Clara, I'm almost there. Hold on a little longer. I'll bring you everything you need to turn this around." I returned to the studio, the sunlight shining on the ocean blue yoga mats, as if reminding me that I was still standing despite all the lies. Serenity Studio is my symbol of peace, and Margaret wants to take it away. But I won't let her win. Have you ever felt like the whole world turned against you because of someone's lies? I've been there. But I know I have to fight, and I'll do it with everything I've got. Julia's report came in 4 days later, and it was like a tsunami sweeping away all my assumptions about Margaret, as if a dark curtain had been torn apart to reveal the truth. Margaret hadn't just manipulated our marriage. She had a dark past I had never known, hidden beneath a flawless reputation. 20 years ago, when she was still a fund manager, Margaret was accused of embezzling tens of thousands of dollars from her clients, transferring the money into her personal account to sustain a lavish lifestyle. She escaped punishment thanks to a skilled lawyer and a secret settlement, but the records still existed, buried in archives that Julia had managed to dig up. Meanwhile, Julia found emails between Margaret and a woman named Vanessa, who had been hired to pose as Ethan's ex-girlfriend. Margaret paid Vanessa $5,000 to send fake messages and spread rumors about me with clear, cold instructions. Make Clara believe Ethan cheated, and make the town believe she's a failure. So she'll leave and give Ethan to us. But the biggest shock was Margaret's motive, like a dark secret exposed under the light. She didn't just hate me, she wanted to control Ethan to keep him dependent on her forever, like a puppet in her hands. Julia discovered that Margaret had tried to sabotage Ethan's relationship with his girlfriend before me, also by hiring someone to stage a scandal, and she had even contacted my mother before she passed away, pretending to seek funding for a fake charity just to extract information about me. Luckily, my mother refused, but the fact that Margaret had targeted my family filled me with fury, like a fire bursting into flames that couldn't be extinguished. I shared the report with Ethan, and he was stunned, eyes reddened, voice trembling. "Clara, I'm sorry I didn't realize sooner. I always thought Mom was just strict, but I never imagined she'd go this far, that she'd hurt you and our family like this." His sincerity made me believe him, but also made me more determined, as if I had just rediscovered my warrior pose in yoga. "Margaret will pay," I said, my voice firm. "Not just for me, but for everyone she's ever hurt, from you to the people she defrauded." I called Rachel, the attorney who had helped me register the Serenity Studio business license, and said with resolute tone, "Rachel, I have evidence of an old fraud committed by my mother-in-law, along with emails showing that she hired someone to sabotage my marriage and reputation. I want to make all of it public, and I want her to face the consequences." Rachel replied with excitement, "Clara, if we play this right, Margaret won't just lose her credibility. She could face a new investigation, and we'll protect your studio." I nodded, feeling a surge of power within me, like the ocean rising before a storm. I thought about my mother's words. A strong pose comes from a steady heart. Clara. I opened a bottle of lavender essential oil, inhaled deeply, and began planning to bring down Margaret's scheme right on her grandest stage, the annual charity gala. Have you ever wished justice would come immediately when manipulation breaks your heart? I wanted that, and I knew how to make it happen step by step. I decided to confront Margaret on the biggest stage possible, her annual charity gala, a lavish event at a seaside hotel in Maine, where the entire town, from investors to community leaders, would gather under shimmering crystal lights. Margaret was the chairwoman of the charity, and the gala was the peak of her reputation, where she wore a flawless facade to conceal the darkness. I contacted Julia, who had connections with the organizers, and said with determination, "Julia, I need an invitation to the gala, and I need a moment to speak in front of the crowd, to reveal the truth about Margaret. Can you help me?" Julia agreed immediately, her voice full of resolve. "Clara, I'll make it happen, from ensuring your presence to getting the local press involved. Do what you need to do, and I'll back you all the way." I prepared carefully, choosing an elegant ocean blue dress, not to show off, but to affirm that I hadn't crumbled under her manipulation. I brought a USB drive containing all the evidence, Margaret's emails to Vanessa, Julia's report on the old fraud case, and a voice recording Julia had obtained, in which Margaret coldly instructed Vanessa, "Destroy Clara. Make Ethan see she's not worthy and turn the town against her." I also prepared a special gift, a small, intricately decorated yoga mat with the words hidden underneath, "Truth is light." In the days leading up to the gala, I focused on Serenity Studio launching a free yoga class for women in need with candlelight and peppermint oil, attracting even those who had never tried yoga before, as a reminder to myself that I still had control over my life. The night before the gala, Ethan walked into the house, held my hand, his eyes resolute. "Clara, I'll stand with you at the gala, no matter what Mom says or does. I'm sorry I didn't protect you sooner. But from now on, we'll face her together, and I won't let you fight alone." I nodded, feeling strength from him, and I knew we would weather this storm together. The gala took place in a grand ballroom, crystal lights reflecting off glass walls, the sound of waves echoing from afar like a whisper of encouragement. Margaret took the stage, her gown, magnificent smile perfect, presenting the charity as a symbol of goodness. Ethan sat beside me, his hand tightly holding mine, eyes full of determination. I watched Margaret, my heart pounding but my mind clear as if I were in the middle of a perfect yoga pose. When she finished her speech and invited donations, I raised my hand, my voice rang out clearly. "May I share another story about Mrs. Margaret's kindness, if no one minds? Because I believe this community deserves to know the truth." Margaret turned pale, but the gala chair tipped off by Julia nodded. I walked to the stage, all eyes on me, and I didn't tremble. I plugged in the USB, and the big screen displayed Margaret's email. "Make Clara believe Ethan cheated, and make the town believe she's a failure." I played the voice recording, Margaret's cold voice. "Clara is not worthy of Ethan. Break her." I presented Julia's report about the fraud from 20 years ago, where Margaret had embezzled money from her clients. The crowd fell silent. Then whispers rose like ocean waves. I looked straight at Margaret, my voice calm but sharp. "You wanted to tell your story of kindness. Mrs. Margaret, here's the truth. You hired someone to pretend to be my husband's ex, spread rumors to destroy Serenity Studio, and once defrauded tens of thousands of dollars from clients. But today, truth is light, and that light will expose everything you've done." I unrolled the yoga mat, revealing the words, "Truth is light," and said, "This is my gift to the community, because everyone deserves to know the truth." Margaret tried to walk away, but Julia, standing outside with security, stopped her. Ethan stood up, his voice full of pain but steady. "Mom, I'm ashamed I didn't see it sooner, but I won't let you hurt Clara ever again." The crowd broke into applause, not because I had won, but because the truth had been revealed. I stepped down from the stage, feeling as if I had just completed the perfect warrior pose, steady and unshakable. Have you ever witnessed the moment truth brings down a manipulator in front of an entire community? I lived it, but my next move in court would be even more powerful. When I left the gala, I drove to a beach in Maine, where Ethan and I used to walk during the early days of our relationship to let my tears fall, not because of Margaret, but because of all the years I spent trying to please her, thinking she would accept me as part of the family. While sitting there, I thought of my mother who had taught me yoga since I was little, and always said, "A beautiful pose is how you heal the heart, Clara." I whispered to the waves, my voice choked with emotion. I'm reclaiming the light in my soul, and I won't let anyone extinguish it. The next day, Serenity Studio was more crowded than ever, as if the whole town wanted to witness my resilience. Students dropped by not just to practice yoga, but to say they were proud of me, that my story at the gala had spread across Maine. But there was a moment when I stood alone in my office, looking at the photo my mother had left her standing on a yoga mat, smiling brightly, as if reminding me of the strength within. I wondered if I had let her down by allowing Margaret to manipulate me for so long. But then I opened my mother's yoga pose notebook and saw a line she had written, "Balance for love, not for suffering." I wiped my tears and began designing a new yoga class as a way to heal myself. Ethan walked in, wrapped his arms around me from behind, and said warmly, "Clara, I'm sorry I didn't protect you from my mother sooner, but from now on, I'll always be by your side, and we'll rebuild everything one day at a time." I nodded, feeling the warmth from him, knowing that we would heal together, like two yogis finding balance again. That morning, I stood on the beach, practicing yoga, alone, letting the waves guide my breath, feeling the wind carry the scent of salt, and memories of my mother. "Find your roots, Clara," she used to say. "No matter how strong the wind is, you won't fall." I had fallen, not because of the wind, but because of Margaret's manipulation. But I had risen again, and now I was stronger than ever. I returned to the studio, opened a bottle of peppermint essential oil, and began setting up the new class, calling it the Healing Journey, with candles and ocean wave music for those trying to find themselves again. I thought of students like Lily of her smile when she brought me essential oils, and of Sarah, who found her confidence again after her divorce. They were the reason I kept going, like the flame that kept me alive. I opened my mother's notebook and added another line. Healing is not about erasing scars, but learning to love them. I thought of Ethan, of the days we would spend rebuilding trust of the town of Maine, with its cobbled streets and white wooden houses, where I found a family not by blood, but by kindred hearts. That night, I stood at the entrance of the studio looking at the light from the distant lighthouse, and I felt as if my heart had finally lightened. Have you ever felt like you needed to heal from your deepest wounds, but found strength within that very pain? I went through that, and I know my healing journey has only just begun. The hearing arrived like a meticulously staged play, with cold light pouring through the large windows of the district courthouse in Maine, casting long shadows on the wooden benches. The air was tense, like before a sea storm. Margaret appeared in elegant attire, but her eyes betrayed panic. She was no longer the confident woman from the gala, Rachel. My attorney presented the evidence with precision. Like a yogi performing the perfect pose, Margaret's emails to Vanessa, the recorded directives and old fraud records from 20 years ago. She introduced Vanessa's social media post, bragging about the $5,000 from Margaret as proof of collusion. Margaret's lawyer tried to push back, his voice trembling. "Your Honor, my client only wanted to protect her son from an unsuitable marriage and had no intention of causing harm." Rachel smiled, her voice sharp as a blade. "Protect, you mean manipulate. My client has clear evidence that Mrs. Margaret orchestrated the fraud, hired someone to damage her reputation, and embezzled client money in the past. The judge reviewed the documents, the house deed in my name, the business license for Serenity Studio under my identity, and the private account I had kept from the start. Mrs. Margaret, the judge said sternly, looking directly at her, "You are accused of hiring someone to fabricate messages and spread rumors to harm Ms. Clara. Do you deny this?" Margaret squirmed in her seat, sweat forming on her forehead, mumbling, I just wanted the best for Ethan. I didn't think things would go this far." The judge raised an eyebrow, voice icy. "Through deceit and manipulation, your actions not only harmed Ms. Clara, but also violated both ethics and the law. The court ordered Margaret to pay damages for defamation and reopened the old fraud investigation, like a wave washing away her reputation." As we left the courthouse, I overheard Margaret say to her lawyer, her voice trembling, "I didn't think she'd dare. I thought Clara would stay silent like the others." Ethan held my hand and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Clara, for standing up, not just for yourself, but for the truth." The sound of my heels echoed confidently across the courthouse's marble floor, like steady breathing in a yoga class. I stepped outside, sunlight from Maine shining on my hair, carrying the scent of the sea and freedom. Rachel walked beside me, smiling. "Clara, you did the impossible, not just defeating Margaret, but protecting Serenity Studio and inspiring the whole town." I nodded, but I didn't feel triumphant. I felt relieved, as if a boulder had been lifted from my chest. I thought of the days. I thought I would break down of Vanessa's cruel emails, of the rumors that swept through the town I had made it through, not just for myself, but for those who believed in me, from Lily to Mrs. Grace. Have you ever thought that justice was something too distant to reach? I used to think that too, but I fought for it, and that became my greatest victory. A few weeks after the trial, Margaret became increasingly desperate, like a boat lost at sea. She emailed Rachel, claiming that Serenity Studio succeeded thanks to her financial support, that I owed her for the years she had to endure me. But my meticulous records, from the lease contract to every essential oil invoice, disproved all her lies like light chasing away darkness. "She's panicking," Rachel said over the phone, amused, "because the charity board removed her after the gala, and the whole town is turning its back on her." Ethan received an apology letter from his sister, who had once believed their mother's lies, writing, "Clara, I'm ashamed I didn't stand by you. Mom made the whole family think you weren't worthy. But now I see the truth, and I hope you'll forgive me." Serenity Studio, on the other hand, kept thriving like a flame rising after the storm. Rumors about my story spread far and wide, and women in town started stopping by, not just to practice yoga, but to share their own stories, from being dismissed by their in-laws to quiet victories. Mrs. Grace, an older student, said when she signed up for a new class, "My husband used to say yoga was useless, not worth my time. But seeing you, Clara, I've learned to stand up for myself, and I want to thank you for that." From those days of fighting to protect my dream, I realized I could help others find their light, just like I had found mine. I expanded the studio, adding a small corner with wooden chairs and yoga books where students could sit and read or chat after class. A healing space. I hired Lily as an assistant, and she created a kids' yoga class, attracting families who had never heard of yoga before, like a fresh breeze blowing through town. Each of those moments reminded me I wasn't just building a studio. I was building a community where people could find connection through their yoga mats. I thought of my mother, of how she taught me yoga was a way to connect the soul, not just with ourselves, but with those around us. I opened her notebook and wrote another line. "Strength is not in defeating others, but in lifting those beside you." I thought of Ethan, of how we had started opening up more of the evenings. We sat by the fireplace, sharing fears and dreams, like two yogis finding balance again. That night I stood in front of the studio looking at the light from the distant lighthouse and opened a bottle of peppermint oil, breathing deeply to feel life fill me. Have you ever thought of yourself as just an ordinary person, not strong enough to make a difference? I used to think that too. But now I know I'm a light that cannot be put out, and I will keep spreading it. I stood on the beach in Maine under the pale moonlight, where I hosted an outdoor yoga festival with hundreds of people gathered, lanterns glowing on the tree branches and the sound of waves blending with healing music. Serenity Studio, now with 4 branches and 30 employees, had become the heart of the community, and this festival was my way of thanking the town for standing with me. Yoga mats stretched across the sand, students from Lily to Mrs. Grace, from single mothers to young women, all smiling, breathing in rhythm. With my guidance, I stepped onto a small wooden platform, my sea blue dress shimmering under the lights, and shared my story, voice steady and clear. 2 years ago, a cruel email from Vanessa, orchestrated by my mother-in-law Margaret, made me feel like my world had collapsed. She hired someone to pretend to be my husband's ex, spread rumors to ruin Serenity Studio, and even embezzled money from clients in the past. But I didn't fall. I stood up at her charity gala, exposed the truth, took her to court, and reclaimed not just justice, but myself. The crowd went silent, then erupted into thunderous applause, like waves rising beneath the moonlight. I held up a bottle of lavender oil, the light reflecting off the glass, and continued. Each of us has a Serenity Studio within. It's your dream, your dignity, your light, that no one can steal. Life may bring you wounds, but don't let anyone convince you it's not worth it. Stand up, fight, and let your light shine bright. A young woman stood up, eyes brimming with tears, shouting, "Clara, you inspired me." The whole beach followed applause like a great wave, washing away all the doubts that once held me back. I thought of my mother, of her words. A beautiful pose comes from a steady heart. I thought of Margaret, now living in isolation, shunned after the charity cut ties with her. I thought of Vanessa, who had moved away to start over with a regular job. Ethan stood beside me, smiling eyes filled with pride, and we were stronger than ever. Like a couple who had found balance after the storm, Lily ran up to hug me, whispering, "Miss Clara, I just opened my own yoga studio, and I could do it because of you." I held her tight, feeling like I was watching my legacy spread. Serenity Studio wasn't just my dream. It was a fire I was passing down to the next generation, from Lily to every student standing here. I looked out at the beach, the lanterns flickering, and I knew this journey wasn't just mine. It was a flame lighting up the whole community. You, the one hearing this story, I want to tell you, life may be full of wounds, but you are stronger than you think. Find your own Serenity Studio, your dream, your dignity, your light within. Live with intention. Find joy in the little things. A cup of tea, a smile, a dream you're chasing. I closed my eyes, breathed deeply, and whispered to myself, "Clara, you did it, and you will keep shining." I opened my eyes, looked out to the sea, knowing my journey wasn't ending. It was expanding like silver waves under the Maine moonlight.